All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Level Up Mental Health. I'm your host here, Swizz. Got a good skill we're going to go through here as we review another acronym that we've kind of experienced called TIPP. Another kind of accompanying with this is Self-Soothe. So we'll go through this, we'll take a look at it, and yeah, we'll see what we have. So let's pull up the worksheet we got here. And here we are. So we're starting off with the DBT scale of emotional intensity. So we've talked about this a few times. Maybe when I get skilled at this, I can kind of link the video to where this is of what the DBT scale of emotional intensity is. But the reason why we are reviewing this, excuse me, is when we're learning the skill about doing TIPP and self-soothing, we want to be aware of kind of where the intensity of the emotion lies, right? The goal when we go through this skill here, essentially it's going to be a crisis response skill that we're going to need to do. So we're going to be looking at this red zone here, that's 7 to 10 range. Okay. So with this DBT scale of emotional intensity, the whole purpose that we have the scale is if we're experiencing emotions, right? We want to be able to kind of rate ourselves on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the most. And from there, we're able to kind of determine what skills we may need to do to reduce kind of the intensity that we're experiencing or the emotions that we have there. The 6 to 1 range here, we call this kind of the blue zone. And we focus more on that ability to regulate emotions. Certain mindfulness skills are helpful as well too. But when we get to this red zone, we're viewing that as a particular crisis, right? That 7 to 10 range, we feel that whatever we're experiencing in that moment is that we need to kind of get out of this. We need to have this resolved, right? So if you're trying to do things like, if you're in this emotional state and you're trying to do things like journaling, it's not really going to be effective because for the fact that the perceived threat that you have right now is impacting your ability to kind of, use that executive function of your brain, right? So the goal is to utilize the distressing techniques such as TIPP when we learn here to reduce that intensity, and then from there is when you are able to really utilize these skills to practice kind of, let's say, cognitive behavioral therapy associations that you may have done before, right? So this is just kind of a quick refresher to kind of go through that, and this is the same things we talked about. The goal, again, that we're trying to ensure that we are trying to survive this particular crisis, right? Ensuring that, we're able to kind of get through this difficult moment that we're in, okay? So, and as we said, we want to use this when in a crisis, when we're experiencing that intense stress. And it's a short-term thing, right? That's the most important thing, is that we're using this when we feel we just need to get out of that situation, right? So you're experiencing distress. It's at that high range. We're doing these skills here, such as TIPP, as we will see, to kind of get us out of that situation, okay? So, moving forward, what is TIPP? Well, TIPP is another acronym from DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, that we can utilize to ensure we can just kind of introduce certain stimuli to, again, essentially distract our mind from that perceived threat that we're having. So TIPP is broken down into 4 kind of areas of the acronym. We have temperature, intense exercise, paced breathing, and paired muscle relaxation. So the goal for each of these 4 is to be able to, let's say if you're having a panic attack or you're in that particular, let's say, even if you're super withdrawn or something. I know we talked another video about the window of tolerance, right? If you're on that lower end where there's just kind of intense, depressive feelings that we're experiencing, we want to try to do some of these things to kind of get us out of that intense state that we're in, okay? So the first one to look at here is temperature. So through this, the goal that we usually say is being able to kind of do some cold water, right? Obviously, you don't want to do anything hot, scalding, something that's going to hurt you. You want to make sure you're safe doing this. But the important thing about that, especially if you're someone that may get really hot when you're experiencing intense kind of crises, that temperature control can kind of, de-escalate that, that level of temperature that your the level of kind of intensity that you're feeling there. One of the things that they'll show here, I think it's down here a bit actually, is the diver's response right here. And this is kind of interesting technique because essentially what you're trying to do is you get this bowl of water, and let's say you're having a panic, you're in that high emotional state. You get this bowl of water, and essentially you just kind of take a deep breath in, hold your breath, and then put your head in the bowl of water. and you want to see if you can do it for about 15-30 seconds. And what the goal for that is that it's called the diver's response because all your vital organs are really just kind of the main point. So the non-essential organs, the functioning for that slows it down. The heart slows down, blood flow to those non-essential organs is reduced, and it's redirected to the heart and brain. So it's you're essentially kind of putting yourself in that physical de-escalation because your body's like, oh crap, like we need to keep these vital things like the heart and the brain active, right? So the goal is to kind of essentially trick our body into thinking that we're okay in that moment, so then we feel we're more kind of regulated at that. Um, but other things I've told clients is, being able to, get kind of a packet of frozen peas or ice cubes, hold them in your hands, and just kind of focus on that sensory input. And you can really kind of notice a difference from that. Next, we could look at here is the I for intense exercise. So doing things to engage in intense exercise, walking fast, kind of running outside, jumping, doing a physical sport, lifting weights, all good strategies to do to kind of reduce that intensity that you're experiencing. Paced breathing. Now, I know this is a common one that a lot of people use, especially with things like box breathing. The whole goal is to be able to kind of pace your breathing to slow it down and really just focus on the pace of it, right? Being able to kind of, especially for like the particular counting of when you're breathing out and breathing in, to be able to do that. So you might, for example, breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and kind of hold it for 7 seconds, right? So being able to kind of do those things is a great way to reduce that intensity that you may be experiencing. Last one here, the paired muscle relaxation. So again, kind of doing the things to practice to essentially focus it on kind of your body and feeling kind of that tension in your body. So doing certain things, I know we kind of do like a body scan. So like you're kind of sitting in the chair and you're just kind of starting with your toes and you're just kind of imagine kind of a scanner kind of going all the way up, maybe doing a few kind of like, stretches in that sense. All those things kind of help to be able to reduce the tension they may experience in your body. So definitely, those areas is key. And one of the things here too, like I said, consult your doctor about if this is something that is appropriate, right? So before you do something like the cold water plunge into the bowl, make sure you're medically cleared. Make sure you're following with a doctor because you don't want to do it obviously if you have a heart condition or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is kind of a nice little exercise to do. A nice kind of muscle relaxation exercise to kind of practice to hold that. So it's good to be able to practice those things again when you're feeling in that emotional state. Now another area is to be able to kind of look at some certain things for self-soothing, kind of on the same vein as temperature control, right? We want to also try to kind of develop skills to use our senses. So if it's things that we can look at, things we can hear, smell, taste, touch, think of what is around you and think of what you feel is going to be impactful to you in order to kind of reduce that intensity that you're experiencing, right? So again, the better that you can individualize your approach to handling your difficulties of a crisis that you may be in, the more impactful it's going to be. So that's why I would recommend kind of going through that. And there's just some examples about the sensory, but kind of think about what is going to de-escalate you and what is some good things. Like maybe you're really kind of motivated or when you touch like, I know there's like these new things. It's like the jelly cubes and stuff like that. Kind of that sensory things can help kind of de-escalate it, kind of develop that routine that you feel if you do get to that moment, that escalated state, what do you need to do to make sure we can bring ourselves back down from that. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe. Otherwise, I'll check you in the next one. Take care.